There was always someone to fill my cup. For those that I've done wrong, for those that I've known for oh so long, I'll always hold a place in my heart for you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tony, and this is another episode of Memories of Us. Today we have Big Greg, and we was just talking earlier about some things, and I didn't want to get too far ahead, and because it was getting good, and I didn't, I want you guys to get to know this man. He's a good dude. We was just talking about my hometown, Newport News, and how we may even know each other. You know what I'm saying? How he may know my family knows him, and so before we get too far ahead, Greg, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, Tony. Thank you for having me, brother.
Man, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, man. So tell people about you, man. Tell people about the work that you do, because I don't think I would be able to do it justice, because I'm like, man, people need to know that we're out here,
right?
And that we're here for them, especially people of color, man. People of color.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, tell them, man.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it once again. So let me introduce myself. My name is Greg, but actually my career path is I'm an interfaith chaplain, so I go by the name of Reverend Greg. However, just like everyone else, I myself over the last 4.5 years have experienced extreme loss. Even though I have been trained to hold space for people who bereave or lose loved ones or go through life crises or any type of things like that, I myself was hit with some tremendous loss. And the first loss that I was hit with, which I was telling Tony, was my aunt Lisa in 2017. And then right after my aunt Lisa passed away, who was like a second mom to me, my mother in 2018, like a year later. So my aunt died in June of 2017, and then my mother passed July of 2018. And out of that, I went in search for someone to actually speak to. And thank God I have kind of the wherewithal to understand that a surgeon never operates on himself. So regardless of the fact that I'm an interfaith chaplain, I'm hurting, I'm grieving, I need to talk, I need to connect, I need to relate to somebody. And so I happen to live in the New England area. Now, I might have done a little bit better if I didn't live in the New England area, if I was back home in the district in DC or the DMV, the district, Maryland and Virginia area, or if I would have lived in a more metropolitan area, I might have fared out when I was looking for somebody who looked like me, who did grief work. And unfortunately, in the New England area, I did not find that. And that was disturbing. Now, somebody might say, well, why would that be important? As long as somebody can hold space for you and, you're going through the grief and so forth and so on. I'll tell you why it's important. Why it was important is because I wanted to show up unapologetically and unedited. I wanted to be able to talk about things that related to me, my family, my connection to my family, my culture, my understanding, and how we as a Black family related to each other, the dynamics of relationships and so forth and so on, our mindsets, our beliefs, our visions, our values, all of those type of things. And I didn't want to feel as though I was sitting in front of somebody that I had to stop, pause, explain what I meant by this, or am I offending the person because my family felt this way about certain things that they taught me growing up, of how to maneuver whiteness and different types of things, right? And so representation to me was very, very important, because I wanted to show up to be able to have somebody to be able to relate to me from a cultural context of grief. Right. And there's a big, big difference. So when I couldn't find that, Tony, I'm the type of dude, and I'm sure you're built like this as well. Just by even talking to you, I can tell you're built like this. I'll complain for a while about a problem, and then I'm going to try to find a solution to it. And even if I am myself have to create the solution to the problem, I'm going to do it myself. Right. And so I started researching on the internet, trying to find out if there were actually groups that spoke specifically to African Americans and people of color. Nope. And then when I started doing more research around, well, what is the disparities within grief? I found out there's a big, huge grief gap. Right. When I talk about grief gap, they were talking about it from the context of valuable resources. Right. I mean, COVID-19 is a prime example of the health disparity. Right. Between Black and brown communities and white communities. Right. And that we have been affected by coronavirus much more at a higher rate than our white counterparts. Right. And so when I started doing my research, I started reading, I started really educating myself around the cultural context of grief, the disparities within the African-American community, and then understanding, even from my own training, that grief doesn't just show up because you lost a loved one, especially in the Black and brown community. Grief is a symptom of something that you feel that you have lost that was significant or sacred. And 9 times out of 10, Black communities, as well as brown communities, the thing that is grievous the most with the disparities is the systematic oppression that we face on an everyday basis can create us to stay in a state of grief on a constant basis. So, you know, grief shows up in our community 9 times out of 10, especially when we're not looked at as full human beings, when we're not looked at or valued as productive members of society, you know, walking through a shopping mall, going into a store and being followed 9 times out of 10 versus your white colleagues is grievous, right? Or your white counterparts is grievous. Being racially profiled is grievous. Watching another Black man die on live TV under the knee you know, of a police officer is grievous. Watching a unarmed Black man in the car with his child and wife and saying, hey, I have a gun, but I have a permit for it, and being shot on live you know, film is grievous, right? Signing up and trying to get that job, but my name is Tamika Jenkins and my application gets thrown in the trash knowing that I'm the most qualified one out of the whole interview. That's grievous. You know, showing up and asking, hey, why is your hair in cornrows? Because that's unprofessional or too unethical, and it's too urban. Either take your hair and straighten it out or put a wig on, or we have to let you go. That's grievous, right? So when you're not being identified as a full human being, those are grievous situations as well, because grief is nothing but a symptom of an underlying cause, right? It's just like I tell people, it's just like if you go into the doctor saying your elbow hurts, they're really not concerned about that. That's not what they're concerned about. They're concerned about what is causing your elbow to hurt. So what they're going to do is they're going to do blood workup on you. They're going to go and take x-rays, and they're going to try to narrow down what is the cause. There is something causing your elbow to hurt. Your elbow is just not going to hurt to be hurting. It's something causing that. Right. So I wanted to speak to those causes. Right. I wanted to speak to those things, that how Black and brown communities, 9 times out of 10, besides losing a loved one, we stay in a state of grief, right? Just by dealing with life and trying to navigate whiteness in this country, trying to navigate systems of oppression, trying to navigate the ability to just be ourselves, to be seen, valued, and heard. So I started the Color of Grief to start these conversations. And since by trade, I'm an interfaith chaplain, but I also do I'm the social justice manager for a human services organization, which I helped to spearhead and led them going from a multicultural organization to a social justice anti-racist organization. And, so I do work around social justice. And so what I wanted to do is bring my gifts, my time, my treasure, and my talents to be able to create a brave space for Black and brown folks or BIPOC people to show up and to be able to feel like they don't have to be scripted, that they can be themselves, that they can have real lives, like authentic, transparent conversations, and have people to be able to meet them where they're at and understand. And so what I ended up doing is creating a Facebook page first, which was a brand page, but then I created a closed group. And the closed group is specifically for BIPOC people. But however, I left the brand page open for anybody to join because we need our white brothers and sisters. This is not anti-white. This has nothing to do with that. But if you're a learner and you want to educate yourself and understand the dynamics, the trials, the tribulations, the trauma that Black and brown people face, not only from the inception of slavery in this country, but to present day, right? Then you have to be a learner. You have to be able to sit, hear these things, ask questions, be comfortable in uncomfortable conversations, and learn and grow. And so I wanted to hold also a space for learning. And I also spun off of the Facebook and onto IG because I wanted to open that space as well. I wanted to open space for my white brothers and sisters to be able to connect, to be able to learn, to be able to, I recommend books. I do, trainings. I did Black History Month. Black History Month, the beginning of this year. I did a 4-part series with a co-host, Oceana, who's also a death doula. And we did a 4-part series. And we touched on all of these facets of how grief shows up in the Black and brown communities. And, so it's things like that. And now I'm getting ready. I'm working along with somebody now who will be a different co-host going into for Black History Month for 2022. But also what I'm doing is I'm holding space. And here again, I'm a teacher. I like to teach. I also like to learn. I like to conversate. I like to show up authentically. I like to hold community. Community is so important to me. So what I'm doing is not only the color of grief represents African American and brown people or BIPOC people, but I'm going to be doing the starting in November each Wednesday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be holding space for everyone to come on and to tell the story of the loss of your loved one. Right. Because the holidays are so difficult for a lot of people around grief. So what I named it is called Midweek Memories. So every Wednesday at 4:00, starting the first Wednesday in November, I'm going to be holding space, and it's going to be spontaneous. Whoever shows up, you want to tell your story, you want to say their name, you want to talk about the traditions that are held, what they meant to you, all of that type of stuff. We want to hear it. Tell us about your loved one. Talk about them. Share them with the world, right? And so that's for everyone. So nobody's excluded. That's not just for Black and brown. That's for anybody who wants to get down, right? Anybody who wants to show up and tell their story and tell the story of their loved ones. That's what we're doing. But Color of Grief was specifically started to hold space for Black and brown people to talk about the issues of not only losing a loved one, but also what it's like to be Black and brown in America in the constant state of being oppressed, and how grievous that is by being always treated, always suspect, always this, always that, never this, never that. And how grievous that is. Then right after I had created it, and I probably would have been much more further down the line than I am, not just in numbers, but I'm talking about in trainings and doing a lot more, as I lost my youngest child. I have an older son and 2 daughters. And my baby girl passed away in April 2020 at the age of 30 years old. And so I took 3 major blows within a 4.5-year period that really and truly hit me to the heart. My aunt and my mother, I kind of dealt with that a little bit differently. Because my aunt was 81, my mother was 78, going on 79 the following year. So they're older. I understood that. I understand we age and we die. But when my daughter at the age of 30, who just had a baby, who was only like 1 year old, who left this earth, who didn't really get a chance to live her life to the fullest at the age of 30, that was like somebody taking a 2x4 and cracking me not only across the head, but in the back of the knees where it made me drop to the ground. It crushed and it took literally the very breath out of my body where I had to push away. I just couldn't, I didn't want anything to do with IG, Facebook, grief at the time. I just was devastated. I was almost like the first couple of months was in a state of shock, right? It was almost like, nah, I didn't, this didn't really happen. And then the feelings kicked in, right? And I remember many a nights, man, being in a fetal position, in my bed and just wailing, yeah. And so I had to take a step back, and then I had to regroup, and then I had to get back into making some connections to be able to help me to grieve in a healthy way, right? And so one of the people, and I always bring up some people's names, and I want to throw some names out there, especially if you're going to put this on IG, of some good folks, right? That people, if you're interested, you need to connect with. My little sister, Dr. McHale Harris, is, she has helped me through one of the most darkest times, through my grief. And she's a grief counselor. She's on. I know you follow her, I think.
I believe I do.
I don't know if you follow Dr. McHale. And actually, I turned you on to somebody else not too long ago. I'm hoping that everybody can connect and network with each other and all of that. Because I love to uplift and support people, man. I'm not a one-man band. I don't have to beat my own drum. I like beating other people's drums and pointing the finger and look at this person, look what they're doing. They're amazing. You know what I mean? I like doing that. Man. You know what I mean? That's me, man, all day long.
You can't do it alone,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like,
you built a platform. I think we both built these great platforms, and it only seems right to turn around and lift the next person up to help them start building theirs, right?
Absolutely.
And seeing the path that they're going on. Like, I'm not gonna cut you off, but we'll go back and forth. Go ahead, put some more names out there for us, bro.
Yeah. So Dr. McHale Harris is one of them, man. People, if you're on IG, you got to check out Dr. McHale Harris. You got to check out Grief and Probate Journey. They're good. Tanya and Tanya, they're great. You got to check out Oceana, Death Doula. She's on there. She's an awesome support. There's a lot of people, and then just people who support me in general. There's Grief and Grits. There's Grateful Gal. I mean, there's so many different people who really and truly have supported me from the beginning, who are just wonderful people, man, that just really hold space and show up in community in such a wonderful way, man. And I'm blessed. Even with you, man. I mean, me and you connected, man, and it's great. I mean, I didn't realize that song, It's a Small World, was really true. But however, what I'm saying? It's a small world after all, right?
Yeah. Like we was talking about earlier, man, like we was talking about how our families might know each other. Like we may know my uncles and my aunties and stuff, man, because like I said, Newport News is not big, right? If people don't understand what that means, it means that Newport News was a huge community. You know what I'm saying, of Black people. And you couldn't go anywhere without somebody not knowing who you are, And the regular things we did during the summertime, like we played football in the field, no pads, that's what we did. Or we was out fishing, crabbing, clamming, playing basketball on the concrete courts, and things like that. So it's possible, man. I grew up in an era where Michael Vick I knew him. Right. So dog fights and stuff like that, these things were normal. So coming from a community or culture like that, of course, we see and view things a lot different than most people, and if they've never been there, they'll never understand. But absolutely, I can respect that as well, because you couldn't put me in their neighborhood and think that I would understand their culture as well. It would take some getting used to and going, okay, what works and what don't work for me in this type of setting. Not saying that I'm going to change anything, just trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And we have so many similarities, and and you're right, man. When I started Memories of Us, it started just like that. Going through some hard times, looking for a support group because I needed some help, right? I just lost my son. And just like you said, man, it's like somebody just took something and just boom. But that pain is so deep. And when you try to explain it to other people, like you can't explain it. It's a pain that doesn't go anywhere. And that's where I birthed Memories of Us out of. And then it came from that one, then a double blow with my mom when she passed away. And I was just going, whoa, I'm an orphan. I need some help. So now I'm really needing help. Looked around, there's nothing out here for men. Nothing. And at that time, I just wanted someone to talk to. Well, I sure wasn't going to go to a place that was doing co-ed. I'm not going to share what I'm not going to do that, right? You know, it may work for some people. For me, it doesn't work. There's nothing. There was nothing. I was like, I'm not going to complain about it. And I'm definitely not going to wallow around in self-pity because it's only taking me further down this rabbit hole. I want to get out of the rabbit hole. So what I need to do, I need to fix this. I need to try to fill in this gap. I didn't know anyone was out there. And that was my goal. I wanted to fill in a gap for men to have a safe space to be able to talk about loss, and that was just the basis of it. And I didn't know what the hell, excuse my language, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I knew that it was in my heart to do it. I had a vision of what it looked like. And I just knew that that's what I was supposed to do. And it became this burden. The more and more I tried to deny it. I was going because I fought the idea. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. Trying to get men to talk about that. Oh man, what am I doing? So I talked myself out of it in order to talk myself back into it. So it was that round and round with myself, man. And I look back on it now, and the bravest thing I ever did was say, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to figure it out along the way. I had no game plan. I had no strategy. I knew I had social media, right? Okay, most people use it to put their family and stuff up there. Let's use it as a tool. What does that look like? So the creative mind comes out, and I began to just develop this thing. And now, now we do free virtual groups, right? Or every Saturday on Zoom. I also do groups in different countries and stuff like that. So taking something like this with an idea, having a vision of it and having a mission and just driving and just working your butt off, right? Because it's not easy. Man,
no, it's not.
And you can't do it alone.
No, you can't.
And you made, like myself, I made the mistakes of bringing the wrong people on, right? Only to have it flip-flop on me. And then I had to start over again. And that was after like a year into it. So now I have to rebuild myself. I still have everything. I just don't have other people involved with it right now. And it's just like, okay, the people who are involved are people that help me with the production, with the podcast and, bringing forth more creative ideas to do ads and things like that, songs for, like when you have something like this, what's the possibilities, right? The main goal is to reach more people in our
absolutely
to be able to provide that support and making sure that we can reach everybody. So it was like, we have an amplifier. We just have to learn how to use it and use it in a way that is creative, where it grabs people's attention. And I look back on everything now, and I was talking to one of the guys in my group, and he's a big name. And I may say something, you may catch on to the phrase. I don't want to put his name out there and everything right now. I may have him on the show. But his favorite saying was, Tony, you have to stay hungry. You have to stay hungry. No matter what, don't forget why you started this. Because I wanted to give up for a while, right? Because it was hard. I was like, I just want to reach somebody, and I'm getting tossed around. And it's just like, oh my God. Then finally it broke. And I started paying attention. And he goes, now do you understand why I told you? You have to stay. Your why have to be bigger than anything else, because you're going to have these moments. Stay hungry. Stay in the fight. It doesn't matter if you get knocked down. Get up.
Right.
He goes,
Right.
and his one of his favorite sayings, if you can, when you fall down, make sure you land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, right?
Absolutely.
I was like,
Absolutely.
now, the people I used to listen to is the person that's giving me advice, and I'm going, okay. And just like yourself, man, having that support, meeting people, like we met on IG and, connected from there, and look at us now, right? Oceana, I just talked to her. She's going to be on the show as well.
Good.
Dr. McKell, your sister.
Mm-hmm. I call her my little sister, but she's really not my sister.
Okay, she's going to be on the show as well. I'm waiting for her to email me the twins or the sisters, pre-probate. I'm waiting to hear back from them. So they're also going to be on the show as well.
That's great.
A lot of good people, right? A lot of good people. And now you're up here. So you know what, man? My life, what I found, keeps me in a state of humility. Not only do I get up and do what I enjoy doing every day, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Now I get to collect stories. I get to, help, be a part of bringing that story out to the audience. And, people have a personal relationship with you and things like that, because I think that is amazing. And then to come to find out, like you said, it's a small world. Going back to Virginia, and being
that's crazy. I just couldn't believe that, man. It was just like really, really crazy. But, Tony, I'll tell you, I felt kind of like similar, man, the same way when I started The Color of Grief. And regardless if I'm an interfaith chaplain or not, I didn't know how it was going to be received. If there was going to be there was a couple of pushbacks where there were a couple of people reported me and said that my closed group was racist. But that's part of the thing of white supremacy and wanting to know what we doing all the time. Right. But the bottom line is, you go through. Even when I started out in chaplaincy, even when I started doing my learning, even when I started, you go through like this imposter syndrome, right? And the imposter syndrome is like you said, it's like, man, can I do it? Am I going to be able to do it? I don't know where to start. Am I doing it right? Is somebody going to think that I'm a fraud or a fake, or, I don't know how to hold space right, or whatever the deal is, you go through those things. But here's the bottom line, and your friend is right, is that, what you're bringing, what makes you not an imposter is what you're bringing is your lived experience, right? Your lived experience around grief and loss. I mean, you experienced it on a personal level, right? And so that right there makes you qualified. It don't, you ain't got to have degrees. You ain't got to have all that. All you got to do is have some lived experience. Because I know a lot of educated derelicts out there who don't know nothing. Right. And so with people who have lived experience, who's walked this journey, who's been through the fire, have more to offer than somebody who's just coming straight out of the academic world. It don't mean nothing. Just like my qualifications don't mean nothing if I don't have the things to back up, right? Those lived experience to back up. I got lived experience to back up why I'm doing what I'm doing. Forget about my qualifications. Right. Forget about all of that. That means
it just looks good. It just looks good on the wall, right?
Right. If I can't relate to you, and I can't hold space, and I can't meet you where you at, it don't mean a hill of beans.
Yeah. And that's what, as a man in society, that was the thing that really teed me off about people when my son passed away. Because everybody wanted to counsel me, right? And I'm looking at them. So my question to them was, how do you know? They couldn't answer me. I said, so you're going to try to counsel me about the loss of my child, and you never lost a child? No disrespect to you at all, but don't counsel me.
Exactly.
I don't understand what I'm going through. This is still new for me. And what had ended up happening was people just stayed away from it. They were like, this dude, he's really serious about it. I had to go through it. I had to walk that path. I had to, walk every day trying to hold my head up, feeling as if my heart has been ripped out and I don't know where it is. I don't know who I am, because I went from, just like yourself. And, it's that unspoken word, man. It's that unspoken feeling. When you talk about it, it's like, I can look at you and you can just be like, man, like it's that unspokenness.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm flinching over here because for some reason, I'm leaning over and all of a sudden I got this muscle spasm that just, I don't know, came out of nowhere. So I apologize if it looks like I'm squirming on TV. Like, I'm not getting beat up over here. Trust me. It's just like all of a sudden, like a spasm went up my back. I'm like,
oh, look, I was gonna type in the chat. Do you need help? I can send 911.
I've fallen and I can't get up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
Just put a yes. Just type something in there. Give me an album.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I just got this spasm, and I'm like, I'm trying to hold it together, and it looks like somebody's kicking my butt over here. But trust me, believe me, I'm fine, people. I'm fine.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Do you find that happens more often now that you're older?
Oh, please, man. I'm a couple clicks away from the big 6-0. I'm starting to feel things I ain't never felt before. I'm like, where did that come from? Just like now, I'm sitting here, and I think it's because of the way that I'm sitting, my posture. Like, I'm not sitting straight up. I'm kind of leaning in. And so when I'm leaning in, for some reason, all of a sudden and I was like, what was that? Like, all of a sudden, I got this muscle spasm. Like, what? And so it's all right now, but I had to kind of work it out. But yeah, man. You get older, man. Look, my grandmother and all of them, and when they were old, they used to say, look, getting old ain't for sissies. It ain't for people who you can't look. You got to be, it takes some strength to get old, right? And excuse me, I don't mean using that word to offend anybody. When I said sissy, I don't mean it in that way. I mean it in a way of like just really and truly like you have to have some strength. Right, to get old because but some people might have but some people might get offended by that word, right? And so I take that back. I own that. That's not what I meant by it. I'm just saying, like, I really and truly know that when my grandmother used to be like, look, you'll wait, you'll see, you know what I'm saying? When you get older, you'll see what I'm talking about. And now I see what she's talking about.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that still strikes me, you know what I'm saying, that we have to go back and explain ourselves, from something that we used to say as a child didn't mean anything. It was mean like, hey, punk, right? You know what I'm saying? And now we have to go back and explain ourselves about what we actually mean about that terminology, just because someone else don't get it. And those cultural differences is what separating us. Why should I have to apologize for something that doesn't mean anything except for, hey, you punk, don't, And now
I think for me, Tony, and this is just for me, right? Because of the work that I do and the space that I hold, that I'm very mindful, right? That everyone doesn't think, move, or operate like I do. And I never want to unintentionally cause harm, right? And so, I've taken a kind of a different it's the same, but it's different, a Hippocratic oath, right? Just not only as a interfaith chaplain, but as just a person, right? That I made a vow to myself, right? Because I harmed so many people back in the day when I was before the REV came before my name. And I used to just live like, just call me G Money. I'm just G me up, like, yo, G, what's up, right? Hey, so because of the fact that, I had a past and I learned from that past, just everybody has a past. That's the reason why it's called the past, because that's where it belongs and that's where it'll stay. I wasn't always mindful of how other people felt, which got me in a lot of trouble. And nowadays I am. As I've gotten older, I realize that it's much more about holding space for people and allowing them to show up as their whole selves, just like I'm asking to be seen, valued, seen, and heard as a Black man. And that goes for everyone else. So I'm more in tune to my language. I'm more in tune to the fact that if I did say something, I want to make sure that I clarify it so it's not becomes weaponized or harmful to somebody else, right? Yeah, and so I'm just trying to make sure that I do no harm and I do my best not to do any harm. And I'll always make mistakes. I'm a human being. I'll always misstep. I'll make mistakes or whatever. But I don't think that that's what the issue is. Always the issue is that can you be mindful enough that when it is pointed out, are you mindful enough and brave enough to make the correction, apologize, and move forward, right? And so it's just like the mistakes that you make when you're young, right? So do you learn from them, correct them, and move forward, or do you keep making the same mistakes and then suffering the same consequences, right? What they say, insanity is doing the same thing, right? Expecting a different result, right? And so that's insanity, right? And so just for me, now this is just for me, I speak from an I position, is that's how I want to show up in community. I want to be able to show up in community in a way that is intentional, that is mindful, that is recognizing other people's humanity and how they choose to show up, and recognizing that I don't have all the answers, that I make mistakes, but I'm a learner and I'm willing to learn from those mistakes so that then in turn I can turn around and show up in community and try to lessen the harm rate. To bring down the harm rate, right? And that's my goal. Like, I know I'll always do harm because I'm just a human being. I'll misstep. I'll step on somebody's toes. I'll make somebody feel uncomfortable. Whatever the deal is, I just know it. It just comes with the territory. But at the same time, I want to make sure that instead of doing harm at a level 10, I'd like to bring it down to a level 4. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to try to reduce, the casualties of my humanity. I like that.
I like that as well.
Casualties of my humanity, right?
We talk about mindfulness, man, and it's crazy to listen to you talk because I can relate to all of that so much. And what I was getting at with the language was, like, it's strange to me, because I don't really converse with a whole lot of people. I'm an introvert, and when I am out in public, I'm usually going to this place to this place. I try not to take any steps in between, because of my own choices, right? Because of my own choices. I don't want to be responsible for someone else getting sick. But that's for me. And I'm mindful of that, right? Holding space with someone. And it's crazy because I was just teaching a class last night on trauma and mindfulness, how to engage, encourage, and hold space with someone who's having an episode of trauma, right? And the class was off the chain, man. It was beautiful, right? Left room, set up a little slide and people was able to engage there. And for me, it was giving back something that I have lived experience with, right? And I had those degrees. And what I found was that it just looks good on the wall, right? Like, I have certifications. They just look good on the wall. And what it did for me, it was that it opened up the door for me to engage with other people, like other like-minded individuals. It opened up the doors for me to expand the people that I could touch, and be able to, get the necessary help that they needed. And the support that they need. And it just became this beautiful thing. But no, those degrees, man, I don't have none on this one because we're in the process of moving the studio over again. And so
no, it's all good, man. That don't impress me. That ain't nothing but some paper.
That's all it was.
I want to know. I just want to know how you treating folks, right? So for me, it's like, how you treating people, right? So, because like I said, you can have all of the, you can have the alphabet behind your name. You know what I mean? That means nothing. And if you're treating people terrible and you're not meeting people where they're at and you're not sensitive to how people show up in community, how they want to be identified, or what the languages you use, because if you use this particular language, it's trauma triggering or sensitive or whatever. If you're not sensitive to that and you're not really looking out for your fellow man, for them to treat them the way that they want to be treated, then really, in essence, your degrees don't mean anything.
Right. And that's the truth, man. I've met psychologists. I've met, people that do the work, and I've gotten around them, and had to walk out because there was nothing that we could offer each other, nothing at all. Because of my mindset, and I'm watching, they have the degrees, what I'm saying? They have the masters and all of this stuff. And I'm talking to them, and I realized that they had more book knowledge than they had anything else. The people that they were seeing, they were just going. They was just going with the flow. They wasn't doing anything. They was, honestly, it was like telling words and watching it fall, and nothing ever gets on the paper.
Right.
Right. Like they're just looking at them as money. And these were people that I considered at one time of working with to bring counseling for the men, and after that, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, this is wrong. I felt wrong about watching it. And so, and to watch them just to do it, I'm just going, what's the purpose of you even being here? I mean, you have the $1 million house, you know what I'm saying? You have the fancy car, you may have the trophy wife or whatever, but I don't understand why people are coming to you. I really don't. You treat them as if they're just another number to you. And anybody who's ever been that route before, we know what it's like to be treated as a number. Before all of this, before you was Rev and I was Tony with Memories of Us and doing all of these, that past is out there,
Right, exactly.
That mentality is out there. But like you said, it's in the past. But I look back on it now because it actually helps me when engaging with someone from my generation, and I can understand the background. It helps me. It helps me be mindful of, okay, you're not in this moment right here. Where you're at is at a moment where we both understand. Right. So I'm gonna meet you right there. Right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to come out this moment because this is where the walk is going to start. And as men, I want to let them know, like, hey, you know what? I'm here, man. I'm stubborn too. I'm stubborn too. So it's stubborn.
Well, I tell you what, man, I admire you a lot for even holding space for men, because I know that as a man, and this is too, is that we don't like to talk about stuff.
No,
like we want to keep the gut check. You know what I mean? Because I can't let you in, man. Because if I let you in and I tell you what's really going on, you're going to take that as a sign of weakness, and then you're going to try to use it somehow against me. And I can't allow that to happen. You know what I mean? I have not only a image to uphold and an ego to feed, but I also have, this thing called pride, man, just being a man. And I'm talking about heterosexual cis men, who really buy into the fact that masculinity, has to be protected and guarded at all costs. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I mean? And so, and that's part of that whole thing, it's part of the whole nuances of understanding that, we've been sold a bill of goods that has kept, and especially Black and brown men, we've been sold a bill of goods that continues to keep us in a perpetual state of sickness, right? And the sickness is this. See, white folks, even white men, have no trouble getting together and going to a psychiatrist, going to a psychologist, going to a therapist, a counselor, whatever they do to talk their stuff out to get their heads right. Now, I understand where the stigma comes from around that because of medical apartheid that the United States and other countries have always used us as guinea pigs, experiments, and so forth and so on. However, in this state and age, and I can only speak to this day and age, this is 10/20/2021. This is not 10/20/18/21, right? So I can't do nothing about 1821. I can't do nothing about 1921. I can't do nothing, about 1931, any of that stuff, right? So I can't do nothing about it. But what I can do today with the valuable resources and understanding is now I can connect to qualified individuals who look like me, like a Dr. Mikhail Harris, right? And other people who look like me, who can help me if I'm willing to let go of that pride and that ego and allow me to not only get help and her helped me, but helping me helps myself. Right. And so, we need to open up pathways and conversations now, about the importance of mental health. And I hate using that word because it comes with a stigma as well. It comes with a kind of a psychiatric labeling, right? Because I work with a community that pushes back against all of that, right? They just push back against the psychiatric system and how they, label folks and how they want to flood you with medicines and, get you all doped up, on these psychiatric and take this pill for this and this. So I work with a community that pushes back against all of that type of stuff and talks about the person is their own. And I totally agree with that too. I agree with it for the most part. A person is the expert in their own healing.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay. They know what they need if you listen to them. They know what is best suited for them. So they come from a model of peer-to-peer support, right? It's almost on the same model of NAAA, where one addict can best help another addict because it's very therapeutic because both of them understand each other.
Right.
And that's very therapeutic. So they come from that approach, but yet again, they also come from an approach of understanding that there are other holistic ways and alternative ways to get the same result, right? That modern, quote unquote, modern medicine would put you on a trajectory and you'll end up in the psych ward, right? Numbed out under all these medications, right? So they have an alternative pathways, right? To allow that person to be the expert, to be the voice in their own hearing. Now, if they feel they need medicine, then okay, they support them. But it's not forced on them. It's not told that, well, you better go on psych meds or you're going to lose your mind. And, what do you do with the person that says, well, I'm hearing voices, right? And I'm hearing voices. Oh, go on a psych med. You're crazy. You're crazy. They don't take that approach. They take that approach of that. What can we learn from the voices that are talking to you? And how can we navigate that into your healing process for you to be able to have a better outcome versus being put in a straitjacket in a psychiatric ward under 3,000 different medications.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, we as men, man, we need to start showing up more and dropping this, this false narrative that we've created. And we need to start supporting each other. We need to start getting help for our own selves. We need to start talking about where we're at. Ain't nothing sissy about, excuse me, as I use that word again, I apologize. There's nothing soft or unmanly about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel good about who I am. You know what I mean? And I know who I am and I make no apologies for it. And so once again, we need to really and truly take a look at how we're showing up. And once again, sorry for using the word sissy, didn't mean that. But however, my point is there's nothing unmasculine. I tap into my feminine energy as it relates to my intuitiveness, right? And because I find myself to be very discerning, right? So I can discern a lot of things, right? I don't think I can do that from a masculine energy perspective, right? I have to do it from a feminine energy perspective, but that doesn't make me less of a man. I'm not feeling as though somehow that puts me in a separate category. I'm heterosexual. That's who I am. I make no apologies for it. I love women. But because I tap into certain energies that help me to flow and help me to open up different things doesn't make me less masculine or less heterosexual. So I don't have to apologize for that. And I look at it from a spiritual perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. Well, we had to take a page from the women as well, because it doesn't make you less of a man. It actually makes you more of a man when you can express what you're going through instead of having other people guess what you're going through, right? And we as men, that masculine mentality that we carry around around that stigma. It takes a long time to break through. It really does. And it's just for me, it was tapping into the masculine curiosity, and that's where that breaking point is. If you can appeal to a man's masculine curiosity, like if they see a man, like I put post up, right? And people see the post, it's not going to grab everybody's attention. But if you do it enough times, the person that you're trying to reach normally clicks on that button. And just to come see what it's all about. I'm either going to be a joke or I'm going to be the real thing, right?
Hold on one second, Tony. I'm going to turn on the light because I'm getting a little fuzzy and dark over here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So people can see. No, that ain't helpful. All right. Does that look a little bit better, or is there too much light? Or sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're perfectly fine.
I'm at my kitchen table, so
okay. Yeah, but right. It's appealing to it, and that's what I told a friend of mine because I was worried. I was like, man, maybe I need to stop right in the beginning. And then something inside of me just said, no, just keep doing it. This time, do it this way. So it was banging my head against it till I started appealing to it. Then I would have people, like I have a private group as well on Facebook. And it's just nothing but men. And, these guys will get behind that keyboard and they'll tell their stories all day long. They will. And I think it's funny. I find it pretty funny because when I put up the virtual group, like sometimes somebody shows up, sometimes they don't. And they'll be on Facebook talking in the group going, is anybody going to the group? I'm like, I can see you. I can see you. Click on the link. I know you have the link. Just click the link. Jump on in here, right? And so like when the first group, when we relaunched, and I think you attended that one, it was just us, right? So shortly after that, the next following week, no one showed up. And the week after that, which was 2 weeks ago, I had 24 guys show up. I have over 250 men that show up on a regular when I was doing it before.
Good.
And so now they're starting to trickle back in. And it was one of those things, I took the time to be mindful of who I was talking to. And then I started thinking to myself, if it was me, how would this appeal to my masculine intellect? Mm-hmm. Does it make me want to go in there? Does it make me angry enough or curious enough to go in there just to see, just so I can tell people, see, I told you I'm not into the groups because we're men, right? We're from the show me state. Right, most of these guys will DM me and we'll set up a Zoom call and they'll start talking to me. And so I understood where they were coming from. Most of them were going, how do you know what I'm going through? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know what you're going through because it's you. It's just your individual walk. Now, I can tell you what I went through, and then we can go from there.
Right.
So it's opened up the conversations, and these guys come back and go, man, I never thought about losing my son or losing my child. I wouldn't know what I would do. Exactly. I didn't know what I was going to do neither. You didn't know what you was going to do. We just knew that we had to do something, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We figured it out along the way. And then we attract the right people to come along to help us, give us a hand up, and show us how to start healing as men. And I think that's where the hard part is. We don't know what it's like to heal. We know what it's like to hurt because that's the source of our grievance. And it gives us an excuse, right? To have these outbursts. But if we turn it around and use that excuse as a reason to start to understand why, as a man, do I feel this way? Come on, man. It doesn't make you less of a man. Your family is going to thank you. Your children are going to thank you because I'm pretty sure they get tired of sitting around. And if you are, into drugs, and they probably tired of seeing you doing it. If you are into alcohol, they're probably tired of seeing you come home at night, throwing your feet up and grabbing a beer and not stopping until you passing out in the chair.
Absolutely.
And things like that. We both seeing them from both ends, right? The kids take the blunt of it because now they're learning how to deal with the grief. And they're learning from the person that's supposed to be teaching them how to do it the right way. But we have a lot of people, and we need the mentors to match the people. You know,
sorry about that.
No worries. We need the mentors to match the people, because the people with the lived experience are the ones I'm starting to find. I know a lot of people, but some of them that have the most craziest stories. You know, I know a guy who survived two murder attempts, right? And it's just crazy. He had a hit put out on him. He survived that one twice. Got hit by a car by another guy, and the list goes on. And so I said, man, come on the show and tell it. He goes, man, I'm not ready to tell it. Now he's been telling me this story for the last 10 years since I've known him, right? And I'm going, now that I have the podcast, I'm like, dude, come and share your story, right? No, I'm not ready. Okay, you know, and I think with a story like that, and with the individual that he is, he's a great mentor. People would look at him and go, how in the world? And just the way that he talks, man, the way that he talks, it gets you riled up. He gets you going with him in this journey with him.
Right.
Because he takes you there, right? And I believe that more men need to hear things like that. They need to hear conversations. They need to hear the hard conversations. You know, I know men that lost family members to suicides and everything. And I tell them, man, come and talk about that. No, it's still hard to talk about. That's time to talk about it, because it is hard. But you want people to see the authenticity in who you are. You're trying to do this over here, and you wonder why it's not working. It's because no one knows who you are. Share your story.
That's right.
It will help the next person. People's story, they don't understand. Your story is someone else's survival guide. That's what this is all. Your story is someone else's survival guide, because if I had not met the people that I met, that hadn't gotten farther along, that been in situations that I was in that present moment, I probably wouldn't have made it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's almost guaranteed I wouldn't have made it. I attempted to take my life because I didn't know who I was.
Right.
And people that I've known for years were the ones that were coming to me and going, hey, I want to invite you over for dinner. For what? Why? What are we going to talk about? You know what I just went through, right? Tony, just come over for dinner. I'm don't worry about this. We'll barbecue, but I want to talk to you about something. I get over and I started listening to him, and that's when it dawned on me. It's possible. And a lot of people, including myself for a long time, doubted it, right? I was like, it's possible. I could do it. And then hit those walls, and I'm going, I'm failing. But it's possible. No, it's not possible. It's possible. It's not possible. And then finally, it was like, you know what? Regardless, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm not going to take the excuse of it's impossible anymore, right? As a man, I figured it out, but I had help. And I want to give that to the other men in the communities and go, look, I figured it out. And what I've learned, I can give to you. And I want to give it to you for free. Only thing I ask is that you figure out where it has a place in your journey and you use it. That's all I ask. Just use it. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure that out, right? And it's an honorable and it's an honorable journey. I'm truly blessed. I can sit back now and go, I am truly blessed. You know,
well, I tell you what, man, I am truly blessed that you have invited me on here. I'm going to have to jump off here and get my night started. I got a couple more things I got to do. But Tony, thank you so much for having me, sir. Anytime. I'm going to invite you to my platform as well. It's once I work out a couple of details. But however, man, it's a joy. I hope that whoever's listening to this, if you're going through grief and you happen to be a male or female, but specifically male, because this was kind of like that type of talk we was trying to have, please reach out. Don't isolate. Isolation is a killer, right? I've seen it happen. There's always somebody here to listen to your story. You connect with Tony, connect with myself. We have other people that we can connect you with. So please don't isolate. Grief is to be shared in community in a healthy way. There are times that you would do your own thing for self-care and spend time for yourself. But in general, grief is to be shared in community so that you can get the support that you need to get. And I'm just blessed, man, for you asking me to be a part of your journey, to share my story with your audience, man. I appreciate you. And and so thank you, Tony. Appreciate you.
Man, it was an honor having you on. Before you get off real quick, just real fast, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Okay, so if you want to just go to Facebook, you can go to Facebook, look up The Color of Grief. It'll bring you right to the page. Or you can go to IG at Color of Grief, and you can find me on IG. Or you can just go in the search bar on IG and put Color of Grief, and it'll pop right on up, and you can go ahead and follow me. And I appreciate, because everyone who follows me does it voluntarily, so that's a blessing.
There you go. Now, I want everybody, his links will be down below. Check him out. You know, if you guys, especially people of color, please check him out, man. He's doing wonderful things, and the people that he's involved with are doing even better things, you know. So get involved, get the help that you need, and click on the links below. We'll have all that stuff. And I want to say thank you for another episode of Memories of Us. Big Rev, thank you again. It was an honor. And I know you have to be out, so you have a blessed day. And we'll connect real soon.